Good evening. So Trump puts out his three-phase get the country back to work plan, and people are losing their minds again. I'm having a tough time wrapping my head around this. Why people are so just out of their minds with this stuff. So the plan is a pretty. If you go back before the plan, everybody was criticizing Trump because he should have shut the country down sooner. He should have done more. He should have put these social distancing measures in place way before all this stuff happened. Blah blah blah. While this was all going on, Pelosi was walking down Chinatown a month after he imposed the flight restrictions on people coming from direct flights from China. The dumbasses up in New York were walking around. The mayor of New York, De Blasio, was walking around saying, "Come on down and join in the festivities, etc." But he should have shut the country down sooner. And then when he started talking about getting the country back to work and getting our economy restarted, everybody's, "Oh, he doesn't have the authority to do it." The whole 10th Amendment, even though they don't understand the Commerce Clause, but I did another video about it where it's a partly justified argument with the restarting of the economy, where the governors control the economy within the state, but Trump controls the national economy. I explained that in my other video. So, but there's the two contradictions with he should have shut down the country sooner, but yet he doesn't have the authority to restart it. It's just stupid to me. But anyway, Trump puts out his plan and then leaves it up to the governors to decide. Okay, I'll give that a fair. That's fair enough. I'll call it a happy medium, if you will. Trump's going to do his part to open up the national economy and allow freight, allow flights and import export of oil and goods, etc. So now it's up to the governors to control or to restart their state level or economies. I find it fair. And then people are just back to the "we're all gonna die" crap. It's an unjustified and unreasoned fear, in my view, in my opinion, based on what the numbers I've looked at and all the research I've done on this. There's no justification for the fear. First and foremost, I've said it before, I'll say it again, none of us get out of this thing called life alive. We all die. Fact of life. And I also bring up, there was a lady, I can't remember what state, but she was standing in line to get into a store. She was observing the social distancing rules by staying 6 foot away from the people around her. She had her gloves on, whatever, and she gets shot and killed with a stray bullet. Death is random for most people. There's no telling what's going to happen. Take precautions if you want. That's fine. It's your choice to do so. But when you mandate it and force it on other people out of an unjustified fear, that's fucking tyranny. Even if it's the sheep controlling the other sheep based off of their fears, their unjustified and unreasoned fears, that's still tyranny. You call it social tyranny. It's not an authoritative tyranny, but it's a social tyranny. After everything that's been exposed on this virus and what the WHO is doing, Bill Gates and all these guys, where's your justification? I mean, we've got people saying that with the reopening of the states, the cases are going to explode, more deaths are going to explode, you're going to cause another shutdown. Based on what? Based on what? You're going to base it off of the current numbers? You're going to base it off what's currently being reported? Okay, so first and foremost, if people catch this virus, so what? Over 98% recover. And of the 98%, over 85% of them don't even require a hospital stay, don't require medication. They go home, they cough, they suffer, they have fever, and then they're fine. That leaves you a very small percentage which have to go of the 15% that have to go either to hospital visit, medication, and or hospital stay, and then to the extreme with the ventilators and all the other stuff that's going on. Okay, again, so what? That happens every day in this country for multitudes of reasons. There has been no overrunning of our medical system, and it's not because of the measures we put in place. The numbers don't show that. Where's your fear grounded? If you have a legitimate fear based on legitimate numbers and legitimate information, okay, fine, but there is nothing legitimate about this. Just yesterday, day before yesterday, they came out and reduced their projected numbers again. There was the Gates Foundation / WHO number predictions, the Imperial College, all reduced their numbers again for the third time. It isn't because of social distancing, because there's still countries that don't social distance. As within the state, we still have eight states that haven't done a social distancing stuff, but they're still reducing the numbers. There was a report that came out of Tel Aviv today, or may have published yesterday, that if you, and I've said this before in my other video, if you take every country's timeline, countries are behind other countries because of the spread of the virus, etc., right? But if you take and overlap or overlay each country's timeline, they're exactly the same. It's a 6 to 8 week time from the beginning to the peak to the bottom of the curve. Every country so far has been the exact same way. And that includes countries like Sweden and Japan that didn't institute all this shit. This virus has a normal life. It has a normal beginning, end, and middle. It's been the same all across the planet. No matter what measures are in place, no matter what social distancing bullshit is out there, it's the exact same thing. So there is no spike. There is no overrunning of the medical care system. It's the normal course of this virus. And to further that point, the lowering of the curve, keeping the apex low, only thing that was intended for was to prevent a mad rush on our medical facilities and overwhelming our medical facilities. Okay, well, lowering the curve extends the life. The thought was to lower the peak of the curve, extend the life of the virus. That way we don't overrun our medical facilities and we can get a handle on this virus. That never happened. We're still at the 6 to 8 week mark, just like the model in Tel Aviv put out. We're now on the ass end of it. Daily reports or daily numbers are reduced, etc., etc., etc. So we're doing exactly what Germany and Spain and Italy, all the other countries are doing. It's the exact same thing. Excuse me. And when speaking of the medical facilities, by this point, we're, 3 months into, or 2 months into where we should just be on the peak, right? So pictures should be coming out, or should have already been leaked out, because there's no secrets kept in this country this planet in this day and age. Where's the pictures of these overrun facilities? You got companies, or you got media outlets like CBS running fake pictures. You got company or outlets like ABC running fake news and reports about all these overrun hospitals. Where are the pictures? As morbid as that may sound, I'm not wanting to see them for myself per se, just to see the dead bodies or see people suffer. My point is, if this was as bad as everybody said it was, and we get all these overrun hospitals, where are the pictures? And to put the icing on the cake of that point, Cuomo, who's been the loudest voice, the loudest whiny, I need help and everybody needs to help me and we're being overrun, he just announced today, or it just came out, I shouldn't say announced, but it just came out today, that he's going to be closing 6 more hospitals in New York. But he's being overrun. And then you have to factor in all the other hospital facilities. Let me explain this point a little more. The state medical boards mandated all hospitals to stop doing routine procedures, elective surgeries, be prepared for, and you're not, the only thing you could do is run emergency rooms, do life-saving procedures when it comes to surgeries. Everything was geared to get ready for this COVID zombie rush of people. Well, that never happened. Nurses, doctors, staff, all being laid off. They're all having to work reduced hours because the way hospitals work, I'm speaking on a for-profit side, is there's a number of patients that you have in your hospital or that you're seeing or that are coming in for treatment that correlates to a break-even point when it comes speaking monetarily. The more patients you have over that line, the more money you make. If you have patients under that line, the less money you make. You operate in red. So what's happened across this country is nurses and doctors and staff, to include your housekeepers, your maintenance guys, all the staff that runs a hospital, are all being laid off or having to work reduced hours because they don't have patience. They don't. How are we laying off nurses and staff when we're supposed to be having or just gotten over the peak and still have all these people hospitalized from all this COVID? That doesn't make any sense. It's just another strike to the unreasonable fears people have of this virus. So, getting into the numbers, all right, if you're basing your fear of reopening based off the numbers, what numbers are you looking at? I've done them multiple times. I've put them on my Facebook page. I've talked about it in my videos. The numbers do not justify what we're doing. And then you want to get into the numbers being reported. Dr. Birx herself said let's rewind that. New York, 4 days ago, added 3,700 people to the death count simply because they could have sort of possibly died from COVID, even though they weren't tested or didn't have a positive test result. But because they were displaying symptoms, COVID. Okay, well, that's New York. Dr. Birx, out of her mouth, says the United States is being liberal with their counts. So if COVID is suspected but not proven, they're being listed as a COVID death. They're artificially inflating the number of deaths from COVID. It's a matter of fact. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not me lying or expressing my opinion. That is a matter of fact. That's out of Dr. Birx's mouth herself. You can look up the 3,700 people in New York that happened 3 or 4 days ago. And that is playing out all over the world. All countries, I shouldn't say all countries, a lot of countries are inflating their numbers. There are some that are not, and they're looked at like there are several countries that are still listing cardiac death as a cardiac death, regardless even if they have COVID and tested positive for it. If COVID wasn't a primary or contributing factor to their death, if they had just dropped dead of a cardiac arrest, well, that's what went on their death certificate. Cardiac arrest. That's the way we should be doing it. But here in the United States, as well as other countries around the planet, if they have a cardiac arrest but they tested positive for COVID, regardless of if COVID caused that attack or contributed to it, they're being listed as a COVID death. So now we can't even trust the numbers. The numbers are proven, it's fact, artificially inflated. Not just in the United States, but across the planet. But yet you're scared because the city of Jacksonville opened their beaches yesterday. They're starting to opening up some businesses here and there. Phase 2, they're going to start opening up large events and bars and restaurants and that kind of stuff. And you're scared because, we're all going to die. Well, we didn't die. We didn't come within 70% of the projected numbers from the original projected numbers. Not even, we're more than 70% off. Lower than they projected, but yet we're all going to die. If you open the beach, we're all going to die. Okay, so for you guys that are mad about the whole beach, how long can the virus live or survive outside of the body in a beach type environment when it's over 85 degrees and it's salt water, it's humid, and the sun's out? Is there still a 6-foot rule? Is it 5 minutes? Is it 20 minutes? Is it 3 hours? If I cough and sputum comes out and lands on the sand, how long, and I'm positive for COVID, how long can that virus survive on that hot sand? You don't know, do you? You know why I know you don't know? Because nobody fucking knows. But yet, we're all gonna die. That is your own irrational fears. You're listening to what you're being fed versus looking at and thinking critically of what's being presented to you. I've been called a conspiracy theorist person, and I'm telling you multiple times, I'm not looking at this from conspiratory. I look at the stuff, I look at people, and I read them and I listen to them. I think a lot of people are kooky. I think a lot of people are out of their fucking minds, but whatever, it's their thing. I look at it from the numbers, and then you see where news reports are showing the numbers are being inflated. Well, now I can't trust the numbers. If the numbers are being artificially inflated, that's a huge warning sign that there's something really wrong going on. If the numbers were being artificially lowered, that is again another warning sign that something really bad is going on. Numbers don't lie, people do. So you're having people lie to you that are representing themselves as the authority, and you're believing them without looking at it for yourself. Oh, well, look, I think it was, South Dakota. Oh, they jumped tenfold. Okay, so what? 98% of them are going to survive. They went from 130 cases to like 900 cases. They have a population of 844 and some odd thousand numbers. That 998 people represents 0.1% of their population. They've had 7 deaths. But people are mad because the governor decided to leave the state open. They don't have an economic downfall. They are within the state, their economy is doing very well. Then you have other states like Michigan, who in New York is about to have a $6 billion deficit because of all the bullshit they did, even though, Cuomo had money for illegals last year. But now we're facing an economic Armageddon, and people still want people shut down. People are sheep. I was watching a newscast today. Somebody made a very good point. When you look at sheep, there used to be one herder, and a sheepdog or two to keep a herd in line, keep them going where they need to go, direct them, steer them, turn them, put them in a kennel, whatever, right? The sheep always follow the leader. If somebody strays off, well, then it was the sheepdog that would nip at their heels or whatever and use that and scare them to get back in line. Okay, standard stuff. We've gone beyond that. Even in this country, the country that's known for rebellion, the country that's known for telling everybody to piss off, the country that's known for being braggadocious and we're the best country on the planet, our whole reputation. But here we are, we now have sheep controlling or trying to control other sheep. We don't have sheepdogs anymore. We're doing it ourselves. We are doing the work that a sheepdog should do. We're doing to ourselves just shut up and do what you're told. I lost my mind when it came out with the whole travel restrictions and the essential papers thing. That was just mind-boggling to me that would even happen in this country, let alone the explosive part to me was the total amount of people that were all for it, and it was the greatest thing ever. It blew my mind from a perspective of, God-given big R rights. Don't tread on me. We shot the British over 3% tax on tea, but yet now we're self-controlling our own population to do things and go in line with what's going on without even looking at the criticality and how enormous of what they're doing really is. I mean, you got somebody like Bill Gates in the Gates Foundation. There's a whole bunch of information coming out on this cat, aside from the Microsoft stuff, that's pushing for a vaccine that hasn't been tested. He wants to test it in 2 states or 2 cities in the United States. There's a lot of information coming out about his foundation and the shit they pulled in Africa and India with mandatory vaccines. But yet Fauci, who has ties to the Bill and Melinda Foundation, pushing for a vaccine. You got him denouncing the malaria and Z-Pack treatment when Trump first brought it up as an authoritative person, because he's in charge of this whole task force thing. He's got an agenda. He's got ties to the foundation that holds the patent to the vaccine that we would use that hasn't been tested yet. Nobody knows the long-term effects of this vaccine, and how did they even create this vaccine? Bill Gates has held the patent since November of 2019. But it was reported that this virus came out, or the first known case, if you will, was in December. How do you have a vaccine for a disease before the disease hits? Do anybody stop and ration that? Do you even care? Or are you too busy yelling at the other sheep because they're not doing what they're supposed to do? They're not doing stuff to soothe your irrational, unreasonable fears. Sorry if you take this personal, or sorry if you're one of those people that have those fears and you don't like the terms I'm using, but show me where I'm wrong. Show me how your fears are rational. If you're using numbers, well, now you have to get into the validity of the numbers, which are not valid. It's a proving fact they're not. We don't have anything on a realistic level to base the decisions to shut down an economy on. Everything, every projection is wrong and been degraded 3 times by more than 70%. You have false inflation of numbers across the planet. You have China doing their crap. The initial story was this was a zoological, naturally occurring virus, and now it's out that no, it was a coronavirus, which has been around forever, first identified back in the 60s. One of the strains of coronavirus is the second leading cause of the common cold, second only to the rhinovirus. You had SARS, MERS, and then SARS, and now you have SARS-CoV, or SARS-CoV-2, which is now being it's come out that it did come from the lab in Wuhan, which is another thing I told you was, and it's coming out that SARS-CoV-2 has MERS RNA in it, as well as HIV RNA. So not only were we lied to about the origin of this, now we're being lied to about the damping of the curve because of social distancing, which doesn't apply. Then we're being lied to about the numbers of the actual numbers of this disease, and we're being lied to, a lie of omission, from Fauci, who's the authority in the United States on this, based on his connections to the foundation that holds the patent to the vaccine that he's pushing for. But yet you want to denigrate and call people stupid and just lose your mind over states that are opening, and you look down upon people that want to go out and live a normal life. I went for a drive today just to get out of the house and everything. I'm not under quarantine. I'm not. The state of Florida's not under a huge lockdown. We have stuff that's shut down, that kind of stuff, but we don't have the whole stay-at-home order. So anyway, I drove around, went to a local campground or the state park up the road. Everything's taped off. You can't camp. You can go to the lake and put your boat in the water and go out and boat. You can dock from the fish, or you can fish from the dock. You can fish from the bank. You can ride the bike trail, but you can't go down the walking trail. But you can't camp because of this. Let alone that the stupidity of that is just mind-boggling to begin with. But yet it's because of something that we don't have real information on. Again, this isn't conspiratorial. This is me looking at numbers. Look, okay, what's the truth on this virus? What's the death count? Oh, well, it's this. Well, no, actually, no. Well, no, these are being artificially inflated. Okay, well, where did this virus start from? Well, it came from a bat, and then crossed over to the human species. When by the way, the WHO initially said it couldn't go human to human. So we're lied to about that too. But anyway, now we find out, nope, it was from a lab that was doing a what's it called? Gain of factor. Is that gain of factor? Anyway, making the virus worse than what it was, which was outlawed in the United States in 2015, when Fauci was still in charge of the CDC, And then Fauci still gave 3.7 million in grants to the lab in Wuhan, where this virus is now shown to have come from, to do that exact same research. There's several purchase orders that Fauci authorized at $700,000 a pop for the lab in Wuhan to go 600 miles away to another province to collect the bat, to bring it back to Wuhan to do these experiments with. But you want everybody to stay home and be scared, to soothe your irrational fears because of how deadly this virus is. That's not really as deadly as people say it is, because the numbers are being artificially inflated. Can you not see how this makes sense? Can you not understand why people have such a severe doubt about this virus? Do you not have any doubt? Oh, we're all going to get it. We're all going to die. What are you basing that off of? Have there been deaths from it? Yeah. I can't believe how many now. I can't trust the numbers that are put out because it's been a proven fact that it's a lie. So what is the actual death count? Oh, and in California, Stanford came out. They tested 3,300 people in California. 80% of them had the antibodies to the virus. Do you know what that does? So if you have 100 people that have the virus, of that 100 people, 20 of them die. You have a 20% mortality rate. Okay. If you find out you actually have 1,000 people that had this virus, but still only 20 died, your mortality rate just dropped below 1%. That just came out yesterday, today too. So it's been talked about. There's been several people that are asymptomatic, or people that have it, don't know they have it, but they can give it to somebody else. Okay, that lessens the mortality rate. The more people that have it, and your death number stays the same or barely rises, it doesn't even come close to the spike in those that have had it and never died from it or recovered from it and didn't know they had it, your mortality rate lessens. Can you not follow that simple logic? If we have, let's just say 5 million people in the United States at this point in time, this very day, that have the antibodies for it, that means they've had this, which means they didn't die, which makes your mortality rate drop even more. This virus is not what you're being told it is. Just simply looking at the numbers disproves that. And I'll touch on the economy part. I've said it before, I'll say it again. The detriment is going to be larger and more long-term than this virus. We now have, 22 million people on unemployment now, or filing unemployment claims strictly because of this virus? What's going to happen when they can't pay their rent, pay their mortgage, they can't buy their food, they can't clothe their kids, they can't pay for gas for the car to get to their job, they can't pay the electric bill? What's going to happen? California and the homelessness problem out there, or you can even look at Washington and Oregon if you want to, at the homeless problem. What is that going to bring? That's a small microcosm of what you're going to see nationally. You're going to see dysentery come back. You're going to see drug use skyrocket. You're going to see suicide skyrocket. That's already happening, by the way. Suicides are already climbing. Drug use is already climbing. Deaths from a drug overdose are climbing. The disaster to our economy that this virus has wrought upon us is going to cost us more monetarily and in lives than what this virus is doing or has done. But yet you want to feel safe. You want everybody to soothe your unjustified and irrational and unreasonable fears because you think everybody's going to die. Use your brain. Look at this critically and pay attention to a causation argument as opposed to a correlation argument. What you're being told is a correlation argument, not a causation argument. There is a huge difference between the two. If you don't know the difference between the two, look them up. What's being presented to you by the powers that be is a correlation fallacy argument. It's not a causation. What they are causing is going to cost us dearly. When this is all said and done, and we try to restart this economy, it's going to cost us dearly in money and in lives. Facts are facts. Numbers are numbers. Numbers don't lie. People do.